And I swear we're live for this one. We're only a little bit late, but that's okay. Hi, all you VC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the Takedown Troupe, your weekly TNA review show here on the BC WrestlePod Network. Tonight, I am your host, Mikey, and joining me this week is, of course, our newest TNA correspondent and friend extraordinaire to all of us here is Mr. JT himself. Hi, sir. We're only like a little bit late, but hey, we're here.
That's fine. I like to think of it as a fashionable appearance.
That
Yeah.
is very, very true. Well, I'm glad that you're back. We missed you last week for sure.
Yeah. That's so I've been doing the whole dragon boat thing and it has been kicking my ass, but it's nice to kind of have the ability to go back and forth between doing that and then coming here and just being able to kind of unwind.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm happy that you can choose to end your Friday evening with us here. And a Friday evening that it's going to be had. So, we're going to talk a little bit about some TNA that went down yesterday from the April 10th edition. Unfortunately, as of right now, Will may or may not be here, our third correspondent. Who knows? He might pop in, but if not, I get to run JT through TNA, just me and him. So we're here, and it's still going to be a fun time. But before we get into TNA, and we're also going to make a little bit of some predictions for TNA's Unbreakable, which is taking place next week. If you like what you see on your screen here, or even if you don't, that is okay. Either way, we still would like to hear from everyone, as you can interact with us in the comments of the video or on our social medias at BC WrestlePod, pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Literally, if you go to social media and type in at BC WrestlePod in the social media sites, you'll find us there. You won't be able to miss us.
It's currently streaming on Instagram.
It is currently streaming on Instagram, the Twitch, and the YouTube. And you can also check out the social medias outside of that for our report cards and out of context clips that totally will not come and bite us in the butt down the Rhine. We'll be fine. But with that out of the way, let us just jump straight into TNA. So, again, we are covering the Thursday, April 10th edition of TNA, and we kick things off with NXT's. I know we're talking about TNA, and then we have to bring up another promotion, but we start with NXT's All Ego Ethan Page starting the evening, coming out to the ring and talking about, his last time he was in TNA. He has a tenure. He was a tag team champion, but now he is here to go after the singles champion. And, me and Will talked about this last week. I did not have on my bingo card All Ego Ethan Page from NXT coming on over to TNA to challenge Joe Hendry for the World Heavyweight Championships. But alas, this is what we have here. And we weren't done with this opening segment, though, because as soon as Ethan was getting into the groove of things, he was interrupted by the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian. They both had a little bit of a back and forth before both of them were interrupted by our director of authority, Santino Marella, as he basically tells the two of them to, they'll hear from Joe Hendry later in the show, but for them to kind of get a move on to things because they're causing a disruption and they overstayed their welcome. We got a show to get through. It's basically what Santino said. So, JT, I know that you are a little bit newer to this, but what did you think of our opening segment with, officially our two contenders of Frankie and Ethan being the ones to challenge Joe Hendry for his championship at Rebellion?
What a it so I'm used to seeing in the wrestling world, I'm used to seeing that somebody comes back from being out for a long period of time and thinks that he's still the top dog, and the king of TNA kind of wanted to try and put him in his place, which the three of us have always talked, at least since I've been on, about Frankie Kazarian, and like man, that guy has a pair. And like, he just doesn't like, he just carries around his trophy and just thinks that, long and the short of it, it's these two guys are going to, somebody's going up against Hendry, and it's going to be the battle of the egos pretty much versus Joe Hendry. That's how it's going to be. And like the director said, let's get a move on already. I want to see more stuff.
No, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting because we are getting this triple threat at Rebellion, but we are slowly building up to it. And yeah, so as Santino said, we got a whole entire show we got to get through. So these two need to get a move on, which is exactly what we're also going to do because from this opening segment, we go backstage really quickly with Gia Miller, who is talking with Steve Macklin to our right before he is interrupted by Eric Young and the Northern Armory. Eric Young tells Steve Macklin that, hey, you know what? We all need friends and we do need backup in that case. So Eric Young offers, one more time to Steve Macklin a place in Northern Armory to work with them. And Macklin says, no, I don't need this. I can do this on my own, and kind of leaves Eric Young and the Northern Armory by themselves as he leaves to prepare for his match. Oh, Steve Macklin, I love you so much, but it's very interesting where we're going with this whole entire story. Because Eric Young is like, hey man, we're still friends. I want to have your back. And Steve Macklin's like, no, I don't want it. I don't know you anymore.
I
I gotta
don't
be
know you.
yeah.
Get off my purse. No. Uh this is going to be a really interesting thing to see because like you said, the two of them had that, and now all of a sudden they're starting to do this, and you're like, okay, okay, let's see where this is going to go. This is, yeah. It was pretty intense listening to them though.
It
Like,
is. Again, we've kind of discussed it before, at least Will and I have. With Eric Young taking over the Northern Armory since Josh Alexander's contract finished up with TNA back in February. It necessarily hasn't been my favorite decision for TNA, but I would not be surprised if these two get a match at Rebellion in 2 weeks. More on that in a little bit because both of them are in separate matches for this international championship. And yeah, so we will be talking about these two later in the show because they will be popping up again towards the tail end. So we're going to put a pin in it. And Macklin and Young, we're going to come back to you in a little bit because next we talk about our first match of the evening where we get Ace Austin of ABC taking on the greatest presidential candidate, for the best man for the job of TNA in Mustafa Ali, of course, being accompanied by the cabinet of the great hands and Tasha Steeles at ringside. On paper, I was like, this match should be pretty fun, but I already know something's going to go down. And sure enough, I was right because we don't even get 7 minutes of this match before we cause the disqualification because Mustafa Ali hits Ace Austin with the chair. I'm like, there we go. There it is. There's the chair right there. But oh no, we were not done yet because as soon as the match was thrown out and Ali hit Ace Austin with the chair, it, Mustafa Ali was looking to do more damage as the great hands grab Ace Austin and kind of position him in the corner for Ali to take the chair to do massive damage. But then, just like every good horror movie, Mike Santana pops up and is here for revenge. So Ali and the cabinet duck duck out of the ring and get the heck out of Dodge as they realize that Mike Santana means business, especially since as Ali tried to hit Santana with the chair, Mike just punched it. He falcon punched the chair out of Ali's hands, which then causes Ali and the cabinet to get out of there. We go to commercial, we come back, they're escorting Ali from the arena into his car, where surprisingly, Mike Santana also has gotten into it. We have we had one half of the Great Hands, Tasha Steele and Ali, make it out of the car, but poor John Schuyler couldn't make it out in time and gets kidnapped by Mike Santana in this car. That was a lot to go over, and this was like a 10-minute period of everything that I said in show, from match to DQ to Mike showing up to this. JT, what did you think about the match and Mike Santana taking a hostage in this moment?
That was cinematic gold right there. Like watching this, I knew something was up. Like I'm like, there's no way that Ali's not going to try and find some underhanded way to beat Ace, because that's just how it's been. I personally am really starting to like. I'm starting to get to like Ace Austin. Like I saw him on when we started doing the coverage for Sacrifice, and I know I'm a little new to this, but I was a little leery when I started watching him, and then, uh, but I should have known with the team that he was in. I was like, okay, this is going to be good. I'm loving this story between Ali and Santana. Like it's been absolutely amazing, the back and forth, and to now see him kidnapping one of the cabinet members, I'm like, let's go. This is just going to add more fuel to the fire, and I'm here for it.
No, 100%. And we'll be coming back to Mr. John Schuyler here and Mike Santana later in the show, because that particular part later in the episode is probably one of my favorite things from this week. But more on that to come afterwards, because after Mike Santana gets the kidnapping going, we get into the part of the show where things kind of get a little weird. It's the best way and the nicest way of putting it. So we have this match scheduled from last week. We have Moose taking on the People's Choice, Cody Deaner. And Cody Deaner comes out. He cuts a promo before the match and basically kind of goads Moose into agreeing with it that if Cody Deaner can survive 2 minutes with Moose, then the match will be restarted and it will become an X Division Championship match. And as soon as I heard that, I was just like, Diener's about to make it through this 2 minutes, isn't he? And sure enough, he does. So Diener is able to escape and make it to the 2 minute mark. The match gets restart as an X Division Championship match. And one turnaround later, Cody Deaner answers with a spear from Moose in less than 30 seconds and ends up losing, with Moose retaining his X Division Championship. This was a little weird to kind of like have this segment here. And I'm just like, I get why they're having this match, because Moose beat up Cody Deaner last week. But this was weird. It was essentially two matches in one.
Yeah, it definitely kind of was a little out of place. It's it, again, ever since Sacrifice, seeing Moose, uh, I like him in these kind of scenarios, um, where it's just, I mean, that guy's an absolute powerhouse. And so having Diener say, oh, yeah, after 2 minutes, this is going to be an exhibition match. You're like, really? You're going to go 2 minutes with this guy and then think that you're going to like keep going with this guy? Okay, bud. Like, let's see how this goes. And it kind of sort of, as soon as they stepped into the ring, I was like, I've already got who I'm gonna choose, and it paid off. Moose won, and I was like, okay. So I don't know why you wanted to try and last a little longer than 2 minutes. Maybe you were trying to set a personal best with a record of 2 minutes for something. I don't know, but here we go.
Yeah. So also, this is interesting too, because as soon as the championship match is over, we have Moose as well as the rest of the system kind of try to beat up on Cody Deaner later, which then causes the Rascals of Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz to come out with baseball bats for the save, which then leads into the next match right after this, which is the Rascals versus JDC and Brian Myers of the system. I'm like, weird way of how everything kind of just transpired. But We do get the Rascals versus JDC and Brian Myers next. I will say, I actually really like this match. This definitely was, at this point of the show, went the longer route. How do I put this nicely? So while I enjoyed the match, it's this episode felt really weird to me in how we were getting the system after, the last 2 weeks of the system. We had a public firing and then looking that people weren't on the same page. It's kind of crazy to me, and spoiler alert for another match that happens later in this episode, that the system is picking up wins all of a sudden. And I'm like, something smells fishy. It's really weird how we almost had them have a public firing and it looked like we were breaking them up, to now them getting wins. Now, granted, they're getting shenanigan wins because that is exactly how JDC and Brian Myers here win, through some shenanigans against, the Rascals. But I feel like they don't even need to win, but they kind of put them in the corner with the public firing, or the attempt of a public firing 2 weeks ago has now kind of be like, they're about to break up. Oh, just kidding. Now we're getting wins. I'm a little bizarred out with that decision. But anyways, JT, but before we talk about that even more, JT, what did you think about the match itself, and the system looking to be back on a roll after a couple weeks of not winning?
Yeah, like you said, that was even weird for me. Like I was watching through all these matches and stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, this that okay, that group won, that group won. I was like, now I know sometimes you have to do it to save face, but like that's eerie. That feels like something's gonna happen in the next couple of matches or shows that they do. I think that there's going to be like this like public grandstand speaking of something's going to happen, and the system's going to be in the center of it. The match wise, it was an awesome match to watch because I always love uh, tag team bouts because the creativeness that they do to try and win the match. Unfortunately, this one, like you said, it's reeked of shenanigans, but that seems to be kind of a system thing, at least recently, is just all the shenanigans. But it was a good match. Like I really liked it.
No, I agree with you here. This was a fun match at itself, but I'm hoping that within the next couple of weeks, even leading into Rebellion and out of Rebellion, which is in 2 weeks. Well, the next 2 weeks are the Unbreakable and then Rebellion. So the next 2 weeks are like two special shows. One's special show, one's a pay-per-view. But I'm hoping that are able to do more with the system, because I feel like we're directionless with them for right now, because we're in this wait and see time of period. But it seems that there hopefully might be something planned with, the system, with everyone in their matches tonight being able to pick up a win of some sort. But again, JDC and Brian Myers do pick up the victory here through shenanigans, and are able to beat the Rascals, and they're able to escape with the win. So after this match, we then roll into our next one, which is the first of three triple threats to determine who would be going on to Unbreakable next week to be a part of that international championship triple threat. And so this was a qualifier match that saw top that represent, first class in AJ Francis, and he was in this match with the Southern psychopath Mance Warner and rocking an eye patch Sammy Callahan. I already immediately knew that as soon as I saw this graphic pop up last week that this was the first qualifying match. I'm like, oh yeah, AJ is going to win. Mance and Sammy are going to be so focused on destroying each other. AJ is going to somehow find a way to win. And I love it when I am right, because spoiler alert, AJ does end up winning here and moving on to Unbreakable in that final match to be a part to determine the inaugural TNA International Championship. I will say, I was like, no, it makes sense. AJ Francis was there, and this was mostly a Sammy versus Mance match, who they were trying to kill each other once again. And then AJ just came in as the heel slash bad guy that he is to capitalize and pick up the victory. This match was just a lot of fun. It was just ridiculous all around. And JT, what did you think about this match and AJ punching his ticket to Unbreakable?
I so I think AJ was kind of smart doing that, where he was kind of holding back a little bit, staying off in the ring, and just letting Mance and Sammy just like clobber at each other. Uh, the saying, if you have watched it, awesome. If not, then a little bit of a spoiler alert: an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. As Sammy just went like absolutely crazy on Mance, like I haven't seen like that stuff like that in quite a while. So I was like, this is this is the wrestling that I used to see, and it was I was really, really enjoying it. And then there were times that I was like, wait, where did AJ go? Like I had that thought of he's not out. They haven't mentioned that he's out. Oh, he's being smart. He's playing the game. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, when they just beat the crap out of each other, he came in, like you said, swooped the victory, all she wrote. But it was, man, he was laying down some blow after blow shots. Like that was really cool to see too.
No, it absolutely was. Now, of course, Will's not here, so he could talk about his favorite wrestler ever, AJ Francis. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I'm gonna be very interested to see. So, because of this win here, AJ punches his ticket to Unbreakable. The other two spots will be filled because at Unbreakable next Thursday, part of that will be the last two triple threat matches to determine who will join AJ in a final triple threat to become the inaugural TNA International Champion. Stay tuned for our predictions at the end of this show as me and JT run down, what we got on the card, and we'll go into the predictions with all of that. But before we move on to the next thing that happened on air, I included this in the little slideshow right here. So this is a picture of our TNA Knockouts champion, Masha Slamovich, who is our current women's champion in TNA. So I don't know why this was not included on the broadcast during this episode, but the reason I included this picture in here is because this was a digital exclusive on the social medias. So prior to the show airing, Tessa Blanchard, the challenger to Masha Slamovich's championship at Rebellion, she posted a video on Instagram where she was going to go visit Masha's wrestling school trainer in, where the trainer lives in New York and specifically Brooklyn and all of that. And then from this digital exclusive, we find out that Tessa attacked the trainer. And so she just came out of the hospital visiting him. And basically, in this message from Masha to Tessa, Masha vows to rip Tessa to pieces. And the only question I have is, why did we not get that on the broadcast during the episode? Like, it builds to the match at Rebellion, which is in 2 weeks. I don't get why this was only on the social medias and not on the broadcast.
I was
Oh, it's so
wondering where you
frustrating.
I was wondering where you found that because I was looking at all this and I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember this, but it is very interesting. And well, Mikey and I will talk about this later. That she is in a hospital, and I was like, is this interest? Like now that you have shown this picture, I was like, this is some really interesting foreshadowing. If you watched, because I didn't get to see this, but you did, and I know that they said that that's what this is about, but I'm peeling back the layers here because of what's coming out later in this episode.
Right, especially when we talk about, because Masha and Tessa will be involved at Unbreakable. I just found it very interesting that we have Unbreakable next week, and then we have one more show after that before Rebellion on the 27th. So hopefully next week, because it was touted when we got the announcement towards the end of the show of what was coming up next week on TNA for Unbreakable. So Very, very interesting that we're getting some stuff moving with all of this. But yeah, TNA, I kind of wish you showed this during the actual episode, but it's a good. The funny thing is, while I was looking for pictures for the slideshow, I happened to see this, and I'm glad I watched it because now it's just unfortunate that we have to keep this to a social media exclusive thing. I was like, you could have shown this, but I digress. We're continuing to build Masha versus Tessa's encounter at Rebellion in Los Angeles. But let's go into what actually was the next thing in the show, which was Sammy Callahan being confronted by Santino Marella, asking him what is it going to take to have this feud with between him and Mance Warner end. And Sammy just basically tells Santino that the only way that this is going to end is to give the Death Machine Sammy what he wants and make a match that, Abyss made famous, that Sabu made famous. And this said that this will end if Santino makes it official for Unbreakable. Sammy wants Mance Warner in a barbed wire massacre match. Santino approves. And so at Unbreakable next week, we are getting Mance Warner versus Sammy Callahan in a barbed wire massacre match. I'm
That's
like,
gonna be God.
yep,
That's gonna be so brutal.
hardcore.
Yeah, that's gonna be absolutely brutal. And it will be really interesting to see if Mance comes out with an eye patch on, because then they'll be like eye patch twins, and it'll be just beautiful.
So, based on Sammy, this is the final encounter between these two. And so, ultimately, at Sacrifice, Mance was able to win that street fight. We're not at predictions quite yet, but I think that our Death Machine probably will walk out as the winner. But we'll talk about that when we get to predictions. So, according to commentary, it's been 10 years since TNA last had a barbed wire massacre match. So I'm very interested to see how that turns out. And I already know it's going to be bloodied. It's going to be crazy. These two are going to literally brutalize each other. And I'm here for it. So after this backstage segment with this announcement, we go into probably one of my favorite matches of the night, Leon Slater versus Ryan Nemeth. So this match transponded from last week after Ryan Nemeth and Leon Slater had some words exchanged backstage, which also broke out into a brawl between the two. And so Leon Slater and Ryan Nemeth come face to face 1-1 after, getting into an altercation backstage last week. So of course, Ryan, the Hollywood hunk, which is his moniker, Ryan Nemeth comes out to the ring, and then of course the youngest in charge, Leon Slater. Again, this was my favorite match of the whole entire card, but I'm biased because I'm a big Leon Slater fan. But of course, he is like on screen. He's this protege for the Hardys, so I can't be hating on that either. So I thought these two did a really good job. Of course, we're trying to keep the Nemeth brothers away from the Hardys as much as possible for their collision at Rebellion. But I really dug this match. I think Leon and Ryan have good chemistry together. And by the end of this, the youngest in charge, Leon Slater, picks up the victory here and is building momentum towards, Rebellion. Of course, Leon Slater is a part of the Ultimate X match, along with Moose, Matt Cardona, and El Hijo del Vikingo, who all got announced last week during the show to be a part of that match with 2 spots remaining. Yeah, this was my favorite match, and I'm happy to see Leon finally starting to get some wins after being on a little bit of a losing streak over the last month or so. But JT, what did you think of Leon Slayer versus Ryan Nemeth?
I agree. I definitely think that Leon needs more of these wins, especially against Pretty Boy Nemeth, because uh, with Leon winning, uh, in essence, a win for Leon is a win for the Hardys, and I'm here for it. So it was an amazing match. I am going to say best costume of the night Leon walks out with. It was amazing. I was like, dang, I do craft stuff and I wish I could like completely make something like that. That'd be amazing, but I digress. This technically was amazing storyline wise, like between these two. Um, it's going to be interesting to see if they pop up, say, in Rebellion for maybe a revenge fight or something. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think it would be interesting too, also depending on how things go. So Leon is going to be challenging for the ultimate for the uh for the X Division Championship in that Ultimate X match. And then Ryan is teaming up with his brother Nick to go up against the Hardys for the tag titles. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the two paths go from here. But again, Leon Slater does pick up a much needed win here, so he can start to get some momentum going into Rebellion. Since as of right now, Leon is not slated for the Unbreakable show. But this was a fun match. This was my favorite of the whole entire night. I thought both of them did really well, and glad to see our unofficial Hardy and Leon Slater get a much deserved win, as my co-host JT said. So from here, cinema. Dude, okay. I know I'm biased because I'm a big and a huge Mike Santana fan, but this story and this feud that we have between Mike Santana and Mustafa Ali just keeps getting better and better every single week. So Mike Santana, a la John Wicking it in this scene, has a tied up John Schuyler, and shout out to John Schuyler. The Emmy goes to like the ability. He was just like he started crying, like he is scared for his life. But Mike Santana pulls up a chair with a shovel in hand, with a tied up John Schuyler, and basically Mike Santana in this promo tells John Schuyler that it, you know, since Ali and the cabinet decided to take one of his own by kidnapping one of Mike Santana's like AA members last week, and then just mentally ruining him to the point where he fell off the wagon again. And this was all in one episode, by the way, JT, last week. It was crazy how we got a 3-act structure in the span of like a 2-hour show last week. And so Mike now is like Ali made it personal. So Mike Santana is going to return the favor and take out the cabinet and Ali one by one. It just happened that John Schuyler got caught in the crossfire this time. So Mike Santana ends this whole entire thing looking to whack John Schuyler with the shovel, then just throws it, grabs his face, is like, I'm coming for the rest of them, and just leaves poor John Schuyler, who's probably in a puddle of his own pee by the end of this, having survived Mike Santana, but now questioning all his life choices. JT, what did you make of this segment with Mike Santana and John Schuyler?
This got amazingly dark really quick. And I knew Santana had it in him. I just didn't know how deep he was going to pull to try and get results. Uh, at the end, though, you kind of have that like humorous laugh. You're like, ha ha, you got sucker shoveled. Um, it really is going to make him think about, do I really want to keep going and staying behind Ali or not? Maybe, maybe not. Or he's just going to be like way off in a corner while the rest of them are doing their thing. Or he's going to like chicken out and it's going to give Santana a momentous chance for something. But I like the fact that he made this message. It's hopefully it rings really, really deep in Ali's ear.
Well, we have the next 2 weeks because it's going to be interesting to see how we build up to it. Because from here, we get 2 announcements that involve Mike Santana. First, next week at Unbreakable, we get Mike Santana teaming up with the Hardys to take on Mustafa Ali and the Nemeth brothers in a 6-man tag team match. But on top of that, too, we also get the official confirmation from TNA that at Rebellion, it will be Mike Santana versus Mustafa Ali round 2, which makes me super excited because, again, like I said previously, that I get to be at Rebellion, so I get to see this match live, which is going to be so much fun. But yeah, Unbreakable and Rebellion is just going to be such an interesting way for Mike and Ali's rivalry to get to the next level. And I am super stoked for these next 2 weeks. I mean, Mike gets to team up with the Heart, then he gets Ali one on one at Rebellion. So This is again, I've said this before, but this is currently my favorite feud right now in any of the wrestling promotions we cover here at BC WrestlePod. And I am a little bit biased because I love Mike Santana, I love Ali, but I think this has been the most fascinating and engaging story that I'm hooked every single week. Because what started off to be as a joke, as what's who is going to be the next face for TNA, has now spiraled into mind games, AA meetings, like kidnappings. It is crazy. This is literally like Taken and John Wick combined into one. So
Yeah.
I am super stoked. Which leads us into our not necessarily the main event because we had a promo segment to end the show, but we get into our final match of the episode where we have the final member of the system in Eddie Edwards taking on Tag'em and Bag'em himself, Steve Macklin. So again, I thought the match was really fun. It was good. Of course, shenanigans abound because the system did rear their ugly head in the middle of this match for Eddie Edwards, who was able to beat Steve Macklin after he got distracted and the numbers game was too much for Macklin to be able to fend them off. So again, this was a solid match from two wrestlers who've been in the business for quite some time now. So I already knew it was going to be great. And again, Eddie Edwards walks away with the victory through interference with the system. So, JT, what did you think about the match itself? And then we'll talk a little bit about what transpired after the match. So, what'd you think?
So seeing that the system takes another W, I was like, okay, all right, so that's gonna how it's gonna be tonight. Unfortunately, the first half of that match, my phone was glitching out so hard that I didn't really get to see it. And I'm a little bummed about it now because I kind of wanted to see how this played out. Um, but to see at the end that Eddie took the win, it was, I was like, okay, uh, yeah, yeah, I guess we'll just keep steamrolling the wins for the system. And, but I really wanted to see this. I might have to go back after this broadcast and see if I can actually see that section because the parts and pieces that I saw a little bit of the start when they were kind of beefing at each other, and then technical difficulties, and then the win. And I was like, out of all the times that I had to have my phone crap out on me is during this match. But that's the good side about replays. I can always watch it again.
No, that is a beautiful thing about replays. So again, the match itself was really fun, but also, like we talked about earlier in the episode, we come back. Eric Young and the Northern Armory come out. Eric Young offers a mask to Steve Macklin as an offering, and Macklin just stares at Eric Young while also staring at the mask in the ring. I would be very surprised if Macklin and Eric Young do not end up having a match against each other at Rebellion because of the way that we have a slow burn of the story going for the last couple of weeks. Will Macklin join the Northern Armory? Who's to say? Only time will tell. But things are not quite as over between Eric Young and Macklin as Macklin likes to think. So we will see where this goes. But let's get into what ended the show this week. So I don't know how. So I don't know how you feel, JT, about this too. But of course, we get our TNA World Champion Joe Hendry coming out. He gets very somber. He's very serious. He's like, "This is the part of the show where I come out and turn around quickly, and everybody, but I gotta talk to you about something serious, y'all." And I'm just sitting here. I'm like, all right, I think I know where this is going, but I'm gonna reserve my judgment. And then Joe Hendry's like, guys, the medical staff have informed me that I shouldn't be wrestling. Like I have a torn rotator cuff, yada yada yada. And I'm just sitting here, and I was like, how dare you, TNA? I'm like, y'all are about to work me because that that if Joe Hendry was legit injured, there is no way they would be having him compete at Unbreakable next week. So I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I don't understand why we're playing this. Joe Hendry is injured, but he's going to be fighting through the pain type of storyline, which is very weird. But you know what? Sometimes I just have to, not think too hard about this. But Joe Hendry's like, you guys, the medical staff have informed me I shouldn't compete, but you know what? Because I love what I do and I want to be a fighting champion, I will fight through the pain. And I'm just like, bullshit, you are in pain. I was like, TNA, do not lie to me. Don't insult my intelligence. But you know what? Underdog Joe Hendry is how we got to this point. So I love me, underdog Joe Hendry. I wish it was something else than being injured, which also didn't help that Frankie Kazarian comes out and he's like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of you, Joe. I wish I ended you. I was like, well, damn, Frankie, we went from 0 to 100 very quick in the span of 5 seconds in this promo. I was like, you are basically telling us that you want to bury him and set the house on fire to get rid of the evidence, essentially. I'm like, Franklin, come here, Franklin. Let's talk really quickly. Who hurt you? Like, what happened? Like, I know Joe is. I know Frankie said that Joe is annoying. I was like, you know what? I don't like Frankie, but I understand his point. And then he kept talking and it went more dramatic and more dramatic. I'm like, well, damn, you would have thought he kicked your dogs, fed it to your worst Emily, set your house on fire, like stole your taxes. Like, what is happening, Frankie? And so, from all of this back and forth, we get told from Joe that, despite the injury, despite not feeling 100%, Joe is still a fighting champion. And so just because Frankie comes out and talks all this mess to Joe, thinking that was it, oh no, because Frankie will be having a match at Unbreakable. Frankie Kazarian will be teaming up with Tessa Blanchard to take on the TNA Knockouts champion and the TNA World Champion in Joe Hendry. So this match is officially made for Unbreakable, where we have our two champions essentially taking on the two number one contenders who will be taking them on at Rebellion. So I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, I'm going to be so for real. This match is surprisingly probably going to influence who I pick for Rebellion when we do our predictions in 2 weeks for Rebellion. Um, because either, and I'll reiterate this again when we do Unbreakable predictions, either Joe and Masha end up losing to Frankie and Tessa, which to me means that they're probably going to retain the championships at Rebellion. Or the other option is that our champions win, which is a bad sign because then it tells me that one or both of them are going to lose their titles in Los Angeles, which I would hate for either thing. So let's get back to the promo segment. JT, what did you think about the whole entire promo from beginning to end, and how do you feel about this match being made for Unbreakable?
Go, good lord. Like you said, Hendry with his little like somber, oh, I hurt myself, my arm. I was like, come on, my guy. Like, I know, everybody knows that you're gonna go through with this. Like, that's not even. I had such a small amount of reserve going, this is really gonna suck if he's actually telling the truth. But it was so overblown by me going, like you're bullshitting the rest of the audience. Come on, get on with it. Let's go. Let's go. Just say that you're going to do this. The pairing, though, that they decided to do, that's why I ended up mentioning about the ambulance during the Slamovich clip that you saw, because I saw that and I saw this announcement that they made, and I was like, interesting foreshadowing. This is going to be like this one and Hardy and Nemeth. That's going to be like, that's probably going to be those two alone are going to be the Unbreakable like Hall of Fame shows, if you will.
Right. And I also
Yeah.
think the two matches you mentioned too are definitely going to play a big part as to who will probably walk out of Rebellion as winners and or champions as well. So,
Yep. And I think like you said, we'll get this during prediction time, but um, I think that there's going to be an upset, and I think that the upset for Unbreakable is going to pave the way for Rebellion when it comes out. And I hope it's not going to be, but I have a feeling it's going to be.
Right. So this promo, as short as it was, because it's only like a 5-minute segment, which was crazy to think about, does bring us to the end of the TNA episode. But we are not quite done yet because now we get into my favorite part every time we get to a go home show, so to speak. So, if you don't know what that is, a go home show is the final televised episode before a big pay per view. And so, for this one, this acted as a kind of go home show for Unbreakable, which then we have the Rebellion go home show in 2 weeks. But let's get into some fun predictions. So, currently, and I'm going to send this now. So, what we like to do here, JT, is every time we get into our go home shows, we usually, or at least in the past, what we've done is we would go through our predictions and then I would send the form out afterwards and we fill it out. Well, and this is mostly because of me. Sometimes I will forget what predictions I made on air. So I'm like, which one did I pick again? So what we've decided to do for the last 2 or 3 months or so is that when we do our predictions, we fill out the form live by going through the matches and everything. So that is exactly what we're doing. So I have sent a Google form to my co-host here in JT. I also sent it out to Will, who unfortunately could not be here, but he filled out the form. And why are we doing predictions? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, new to JT, but not new to everybody who's been following us for the last year, we kind of officially made our own predictions league for all the different companies that we cover here at BC WrestlePod. And surprisingly enough, we are about to enter the final part of the 2024-2025 season of predictions. So JT is not going to have to suffer the punishment, and Will automatically is the loser in all of this. But what we ended up happening is that in the predictions lead, we were fighting to not be last place for this current season, and the loser would have to wear a wrestling singlet for a week or two of reviews on air. So they would have to be dressed tied up in the wrestling singlet onesie thing. So it is great. I think one of the other ones is in the AEW league. We may or may not make somebody dress in like a Hardy Boy with the netting and the crop tops and everything. So it is great. But we are coming to the end of the TNA 2024-2025 Predictions League. I am the champion. There is no possible way for Will to come back from this. So I am the predictions champion for TNA 2024-2025. And actually, stay tuned for our reviews of that next week because I will be unveiling the rules for the next season of predictions where we might actually have a little championship belt to defend, which is going to be a lot of fun. But again, we are here to do the wrestling gods heard me. I'm sorry. I promise I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Anyways, so we are going to go through and do our predictions for Unbreakable. So me and JT are going to talk about the matches that are currently scheduled, and then we'll make our predictions live. So let's start. So we're going to talk about these first three, which have kind of all been thrown together into this first part of the Google form. So let's talk about the International Championship. So as we said during the review portion of the show, AJ Francis has punched his ticket to the finals, which is happening on Unbreakable. Also at Unbreakable are the other two matches to determine the other two finalists. So match number one is going to have Eddie Edwards versus Ace Austin and Steve Macklin. So the winner of here will be moved on to the match with AJ Francis. And the second qualifier is Zachary Wentz of the Rascals taking on the System's JDC and Eric Young. And then the winners of those two matches will go on to join AJ Francis, who will compete to become the inaugural TNA International Champion. So now it comes the guessing game of who do we think is walking out as the international champion. So it's either AJ Francis, Eddie Edwards, Ace Austin, Steve Macklin, Zachary Wentz, JDC, and Eric Young. I will go first in my prediction. So looking at the field of people that we have right now, even though we don't know who's going to win the other two qualifying matches to join AJ, basing off of everything of storyline wise and how everything is going, I think that, funny enough, based on how we've been doing the last couple of weeks, I think Ace Austin is going to end up walking out as your international champion, because I think AJ could also get it too, but just out of sheer spite, I'm not going to pick him. um, I think the system is going to be involved in something else, so I don't see Eddie or JDC. Zach is a tag team wrestler with the Rascals, so I don't see him doing it. And Macklin and Eric Young have unresolved issues, so I don't think either one of them is getting it. So by process of elimination, it's down to AJ and Ace. But I think given everything that has happened with his tag team partner and Chris Bay, and kind of, I think Ace Austin would be a really great inaugural international champion for a little bit. So I'm going to pick Ace Austin to walk out as Unbreakable as our new champion. So JT, who you picking, or who you got to walk out as our first ever international champion?
Well, originally when I was kind of looking at this setup, I I'm kind of falling in the same path that you are, and I think I'm going to pick Ace Austin, just sheerly because AJ has the ability to win this, and I think that he's going to be. It's going to be a very tight match. But like you said, there are so many things with Eddie Edwards, Steve Macklin, like JDC. They're they're pretty much going to like throw themselves out because they have too much bickering between each other. And like you said, that with like Zachary Wentz being tag team, like his partner's not there. Now, this would be really interesting to see if he can shine on his own, but I don't think they're going to do it this time. Not at least coming into Rebellion. So, uh, it's I'm kind of sort of it. You beat me to the punch with almost everything that you said, but I do think that Ace Austin is going to take this championship.
No, and I think Ace would be a really great first champion, and because it's international, it'll hopefully TNA will get to allow him to travel, with this title to defend it across, other promotions, other international promotions, have international stars come in. I want to see this thing like it's international championship. Let him fight people from around the world, which would be a lot of fun. But me and you are in agreement that we would like to see, and we'll see if Ace Austin ends up ultimately walk out of Las Vegas as a champion. So now, the next match we're going to talk about is his barbed wire massacre match between Mance Warner and Sammy Callahan. So again, these two have been fighting since February. We got a match between the two of them at Sacrifice in a street fight in which Mance ended up winning. But now this is a match that Sammy has called for, and he is sick of Mance and Steph DeLander. And so Santino granted him this barbed wire massacre match. According to Sammy and Santino, this is like the final one that is going to ultimately bring the feud to the end. And it is because of the way that it was worded. I think based on Sammy getting his butt handed to him, I'm going with Sammy to walk out as winner as this one. I think, again, Sammy lost the street fight. Mance and Steph have kind of gotten the better of him, but ultimately, I think that Sammy has to walk out the winner of this feud in this one, especially since this is the match that he asked for. So I'm hoping that the person who asked for the match walks out the winner. So I'm going to pick Sammy in this one because I think Sammy needs to be the winner in this feud overall after going through everything that he's had with Mance and Steph. So I got Sammy here. JT, who you got for this one?
This so uh, Sammy ultimately reminds me of Mankind. Like every time when I watch him, how he moves, how he acts, and now you gave him a barbed wire massacre match. There's if he loses in this match, like I would be absolutely shocked because this is literally like playing home field advantage. I'm gonna go with you with Sammy on this one, surely just because I think Mance might be out of his league for this match, and I think Sammy's just going to take it, and it is going to be bloody. I can guarantee that.
Oh, absolutely. I will be shocked if these two walk out with no blood, but yeah, they gonna bleed. Both of them may get stabbed in the process. Like, obviously, I'm here for safety, but I'm a sick freak for violence. So I'm excited. This is the next best thing because I wanted to see a Monsters Ball match between these two, but I will take Barbed Wire Massacre. So I cannot wait. This is going to be a crazy match, and I'm excited. So next, let's talk about this six-man tag team match. We have Mike Santana and the Hardys taking on Mustafa Ali and Nick and Ryan Nemeth of the Nemeth brothers. Okay, so this is going to be a controversial take, right? So Unbreakable technically is a pay-per-view, but it's like more of a special show and not like an actual pay-per-view like Rebellion is. So I think what happens here is important, but I'm also thinking about Rebellion and the matches that we have confirmed so far. So this hurts me to say it. But again, no titles are on the line. Nothing's on the line in between these six men. We already have Mike and Ali going at it at Rebellion. And we also have the Hardys defending their championships against the Nemeth brothers at Rebellion. But in this six man, because I am hoping that if TNA follows the wrestling logic where you lose at one show, you win at the other. I'm going to go with Ali and Ryan and Nick to win this one because that means I hope that the Hardys and Mike win their matches at Rebellion. So I am going with quote unquote the bad guys in this match to win here. Hoping that sets up our champs of the Hardys and Mike to walk out of Los Angeles as the winners 2 weeks later at Rebellion. But for this purpose alone, I'm gonna go with Mustafa Ali and the Nemeth brothers. JT, who you got?
So yep, you definitely said that this was going to be a controversial take because I'm actually going to stick with my boys Mike Santana and the Hardys, just sheerly because, and I do agree with you, they have that lose win kind of scenario. But I think that since this is going to be a 3-on-3, that this is going to set the precedent for Rebellion, and I think that uh, while there's nothing to gain or to lose really in this match, I think they're going to use it as a launching point, and it's going to hopefully rattle all three of the bad guys, if you will. And so, come Rebellion, that you're going to see yet another takedown. It's going to be like driving the nails in a coffin. So, that's going to be my take. It's going to be Santana and the Hardys for the win.
Heck yeah, I love that. Which brings us to the final match of Unbreakable, which also kind of we painted ourselves in the corner, so to speak, which is a term we love to use a lot here at BC WrestlePod, because you have you have your men and your women's champ in Joe Hendry and Masha Slamovich on one team, taking on the number one contenders and challengers in Frankie Kazarian and Tessa Blanchard, who Frankie and Tessa will be challenging Joe and Masha respectively for the championships at Rebellion. So this one really hurts me too because I never want to bet against my girl Masha and I love Joe to death. But just because I do not want to see Frankie and Tessa walk out as Los Angeles as the winners or champions, I unfortunately am going to pick Tessa and Frankie here. I think they are going to win, especially with the fact that we're playing up Joe's injury, so it might come into play here. I think Joe might actually take it a step further. I think he might be the one to eat the pin here. But just because Joe and Masha are going to lose here, that means that hopefully they will both walk out of Los Angeles still as champions. So it hurts my heart, but I'm going with Frankie and Tessa here with the hope that Masha and Joe leave Rebellion still with their championships in tow.
Yep. It hurts my heart. I'm going to say this too, that I'm going with Frankie and Tessa, and but the reasoning behind it is I have some sneaking suspicion that somebody, I don't know who it's going to be, somebody is going to jump from outside of the match and influence it to make it where, like, Joe's going to get Tanya Hardy or something, or Nancy Kerrigan, and like racked in the arm, and he's going to fall
Right.
over. And Frankie's going to pin him or something. I but during Rebellion, I think that they're going to 100. Like I think that it's going to be the tables, and I think they're going to take it. I think Joe and Masha. I hope Joe and Masha are going to take this, because I'm gonna have to like find some way to like have you use your phone on a PA system, and like we're just gonna collectively scream, this is unjust and unfair. How could you do that?
Oh man, like we talked about before. So Joe has his work cut out for him with Frankie and Ethan Page at Rebellion. But yeah, so when I tell you, if Tessa walks out of Los Angeles as champion, LA will burn the building. Like Los Angeles will tear the place off. And we talked about Tessa's controversial past and last time she was here in TNA and the things that transpired and went down. And us question, me and Will, especially when she returned prior to Genesis. So she returned to TNA around November. And we were very bewildered and befuddled and scratching our heads, so to speak. So, yeah, and I mean this in all the best way possible. I am hoping that Frankie and Tessa win, not because I want them to win, but hopefully if they do win, that is a better indicator that Masha and Joe will at least keep the titles at Rebellion and then possibly can lose them down the line. But that is our predictions for Unbreakable. So I'm going to submit my form
Same here.
and lock those in. And there we go. So those are in. Stay tuned to the social medias next week, to the day of Unbreakable, to see what all three of our final predictions ended up being. But that also brings us to the end of our TNA review this week. Before we go, I do have one bit of TNA news to share, which I forgot to put into the slideshow. But we have Unbreakable next Thursday. Then on Sunday, April 27th, we have Rebellion. And then TNA announced during the broadcast that June 13th and 14th, TNA will be rolling through Tempe, Arizona. So Saturday the 14th will be TNA tapings, but more importantly, on Friday the 13th, which is crazy to say, TNA will be having their Against All Odds pay-per-view. So we got the June pay-per-view on the calendar now. So after Rebellion is over, we have a whole month to build until we get to Against All Odds in June to kick off the summer season, which is Against All Odds in June and Slammiversary in July. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But JT, thank you for being here this evening. This was a fun one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you very much for having me still, and being like, oh man, this guy. I just, whew. No, it has been amazing, and I've been loving every Friday. I get off work, my phone gets propped up off to the side. I eat my dinner, getting ready for right now Dragon Boat, but anytime before that, getting ready for the show, and I'm just like, just it like an old man watching news. That's pretty much how it is, and I'm loving it. I'm like, yay, structure, wrestling. What could go wrong?
It's a lot of fun for sure. So I'm glad you said all that because then, I got to drop the bomb on everybody watching that. Unfortunately, we will not be having a TNA review next Friday, but that is because beginning on Monday and for the next 2 weeks, we are entering WrestleMania Hell Week. So you might ask yourself, well, what does that include? Well, last year, when we had WrestleMania roll around in April last year, we did watch alongs for the NXT pay per view, both nights of Mania, and we had 3 reviews for NXT's pay per view and both nights separately of WrestleMania. And we're doing that again, but now we're adding more chaos to the mix. So, to kind of quickly go over the schedule again, So this upcoming week, starting on Monday the 14th, you can catch Adolfo and I at 5:30 p.m. Pacific covering New Japan's Windy City Riot. So Japanese wrestling coming from the States here, which is going to be crazy. 15th. So Tuesday the 15th is our AEW review. Wednesday the 16th is NXT and CMLL. And then everything begins on Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific. GCW's Bloodsport 13 watch along. Myself, Andrew, and a couple other folks are going to watch wrestling and MMA fighters fighting it out. It's kind of crazy. It's crazy. Then on Friday the 18th, instead of a TNA review, we will be doing GCW's Joey Janela's Spring Break 9, which is going to have the plethora of fun matches like a senior scramble where all the participants have to be over the age of 65. And we are also having Joey Janela versus Sabu in a barbed wire match as Sabu's retirement match, which is crazy to think that he didn't retire beforehand. Then on Saturday morning, we have the NXT Stand and Deliver pay-per-view watch along. This is NXT WWE's third brand's their biggest show of the year. And then you can see me again a couple hours later for night 1 of WrestleMania. And then Sunday the 20th at 4 p.m. Pacific is night 2 watch along for Mania. Then after that, the 21st, we will be reviewing NXT's Stand and Deliver, as well as GCW's Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Yes, I did say Effie's Big Gay Brunch. And the reason it is called that is because all of the wrestlers on that show are either allies or people of the LGBTQIA plus community. So myself, Andrew, and Adolfo will be reviewing that. So double dose of reviews on the 21st. Tuesday the 22nd is night 1 WrestleMania review. Wednesday the 23rd is night 2 WrestleMania review. But then everything concludes on Friday the 25th in 2 weeks as the TNA crew will be back once again to be covering not only TNA Unbreakable, but we will also be touching up on the episode that aired that week, as well as making our predictions for TNA Rebellion. So it's going to be a jam-packed show, and it's a jam-packed 2 weeks. So unfortunately, TNA will be taking a break next week, but fret not. I will be holding it down for the next 2 weeks, as well as everybody else who wants to join us for all these other things and these other events. But the TNA crew will be back in 2 weeks to cover Unbreakable, as well as to give our thoughts on the April 24th edition of TNA, and be here to make predictions for Rebellion, which is stacking up to be a crazy card. So that is going to be it for us here at Takedown Troupe. So from myself and JT, Will and Spirit, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay biconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you for all the madness starting this week on Monday. But until then, sayonara, adios, and we'll chat you later. Ta-ta for now.